Hi, everybody. Welcome on the Lights on Data show. Today, we're going to talk about all things holographic.
We have some fascinating things that we're going to talk about with our guest. Today's guest does really fascinating work in the field of hologram technology. He is a partner at EventWorks 4D and has dedicated more than 20 years to developing media-rich special events, incorporating the latest technologies in holographic staging and design, sound, lighting, museum innovations, and video production. He has developed cutting edge productions for corporate entertainment, sports, and philanthropic organizations. But let's hear all about it directly from our wonderful guest, Joel Solloway. Welcome, Joel.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, and I am not a hologram.
Now, that's a relief. What can I say?
If it was, it would be very interesting.
Well, sooner or later, probably we're going to get there as
Probably.
well. Yes. So, how did you start this? What was your journey, and how did you get to actually do this fascinating work?
You know, it's a long and winding path. I started off really as a sound designer, and working in audio for visuals. There was that unique blending of the and merging of technologies. So, I had done a lot of commercial work, music production, and a lot of trade show audio. So once you saw how visuals could coordinate with pristine and dynamic audio, you realize that there's a logical connection. So I moved from audio engineering, that I spent a gazillion years doing, into sort of the blending of both. And in 2007, I had heard about holographic projection technology that was really well conceived from an old Victorian trick back in the 1800s. And a group out of the UK had really masterminded the use of a polymer optic foil to create a high definition visual of basically evolving from this old Victorian glass transparency projection in theaters. And so I went over to the UK, saw this, and in fact, at the time, I think Disney was looking to try to buy the patents for this, and the company at the time didn't want to do it. But we became a reseller and a developer in the United States, really the first. As it was, we evolved the technology, and that company sort of went by the way. And we have continued to develop, new, innovative, and real exciting interactive and emotional responses to holographic projection. And now we do it, I like to say, better than most. Or, there's not very many people who actually can do what we do. And we have a full holographic theater where people come from literally all over the country and the world to actually see it, because unless you can fully comprehend the way it looks, even if you have a great idea, you don't really fully visualize until you come and see it. And that's kind of where we're at today.
Wow. And Joel, is this really similar to sort of this show that we've seen, years ago? I mean, if you're a fan of Michael Jackson, you might recall this performance of this show that was performed really post-mortem. And it was probably the first time that we all saw Michael Jackson perform on stage as a hologram. And he wasn't the only one. They had Tupac, they had, other celebrities, Whitney Houston, Marilyn Monroe, some being controversial on the usage of that hologram. And just wondering from the audience if they recall this show at all, this performance, and if they remember seeing this hologram or not.
Well, I think everybody had seen it, because this was the Billboard Awards. And of course, Tupac in 2012, our current technical director with our company, was the man behind the whole rigging of that particular show. As far as both Tupac and Michael Jackson and all the other ones, that's a design concept we're calling digital resurrection, where we're blending we're blending a body double with a digital representation by really distinctive point mapping on a head, and then through green screen conversion being able to marry the head and the body to work seamlessly. As you note, I think whatever controversy was around both of them is the fact that we all know that we didn't bring anybody back from the dead. It's the closest that we can do. Some are done really well. Some of them are look more gaming. They don't have that realism in terms of facial texturing, proper lighting, and so on. Yeah. Michael Jackson, was so unique because let's face it, the popularity of this and the venue was overwhelming to do that. But again, some people, or maybe a majority, loved it, and there were others who thought it was, digital resurrection in general is very eerie, very unsettling, and a lot of other people just say, why would you do something like that?
Right. Joel, I remember 25 plus years ago, I was in my teens, and I went with my parents to this museum. And within the museum, there was this just tiny room, but on the walls, they had these beautiful frames. And within each frame, there was a hologram, which was kind of coming to light to you as you were facing it straight, and maybe a little bit from the side. But there were mainly, I think, portraits and a lot of objects that were being represented. I know I was fascinated. I'm like, wow, this is really how the future is here, right? Have holograms really changed in any way, in the past 20 plus years or so?
It's the same thing. It's Pepper's ghost. It's what's changed is the resolution, the ability to bring out to the public high definition 4K resolution, as opposed to a transparency that is static that you would see in a museum application. I was always fascinated by that too, but that that again is a reflection, and we see reflections like that all the time. Sit in your car, you've got your window, put something on your dashboard, and you're going to see it projected in your glass, and it may be sitting on your hood, which is exactly how this started, in the modern era. So has it evolved? Technically, yes. Conceptually, no. It is it's the same magical trick that was done in the 1600s and in the 1800s. We just do it a little bit better, I hope, after all these years.
So what was it used back then? Because I think that it might be a little bit of a controversial reason.
Well,
was it magic shows?
No, it was theater.
Theater.
It was in London, and it really was projecting a ghostly image, from under the stage, where you had a person with a white sheet, and then you basically threw light at that individual, and then with a glass that was at 45-degree angle, you would see it on the stage as a ghost. And that's exactly kind of what we do today. Really, we just do it using some small pixel pitch LED screens or 4K DLP laser projectors, at 30,000 lumens. So the imagery is so incredibly pristine, to say the least. It is definitely not ghostly, and it is definitely not transparent. It looks as good as we all look to each other.
I just wanted to mention to our audience just a fun fact about the hologram and sort of the origin of the word. So apparently it comes from the two Greek words holos and gamma. Holos meaning whole, and gamma message. And do you feel, Joel, that through the usage of holograms, you could maybe just deliver a richer message to the audience?
You know, we do, because we do it in very dynamic ways. But you know, this technology gives us the ability to really produce an emotional and interactive experience, which helps to connect people. And we do that very effectively now at both the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Centers, Take a Stand Theater, and the Dallas Holocaust Museum and Human Rights Museum, where we can have interactivity between a live audience and a hologram. That's something that hasn't been done before. And with our branding of a proprietary show control system, we literally bring these holograms to life, especially utilizing interactive voice technology. And I find it fascinating. You know, I'll go into those museums and sit there and just find it amazing.
And I want to put this up. Actually, you just shared this with us before the show. Is this from the museum? Is this just a photograph from the museum?
Yeah, that actually was our latest installation at the Dallas Holocaust Museum. It's a brand new building with a brand new theater. That's Max Glaubin, who is a Holocaust survivor who actually lives in the Dallas area, and he's quite a celebrity right now. He's a very sprite 90-plus-year-old who just loves being in the limelight, even if he's not real. But yes, right now at that museum, you can actually stand up, look at that hologram, ask a question, and you will get an answer back in seconds, in real time.
Wow.
And that hologram can answer probably well over 1,500 to 2,000 questions right now, including some modern era questions like, where do you live? What's your favorite food? Who's your favorite football team? You know, we make sure that we make it relevant, not only to the historical perspective, but to how the individual is living or residing today. In fact, sadly, in Illinois, about a month ago, we lost our second Holocaust survivor. Those are unfortunately the first two who had passed away. And interesting enough, the day of this one individual's funeral, he was actually teaching a class at the Illinois Holocaust Museum as a hologram.
Wow.
So from a historical point of view, there is no better way to document history than by having the ability for us and future generations to actually talk to these individuals.
So what okay, yeah, you want to put some comments?
Oh, I just wanted to say hello to our audience as well, and ask them where they're joining us from. And I know you guys are on holograms, but we have Andrew joining us from London, where I guess the ghost projections used to happen. We have Kate from New York City, and Phil Black from Boston, and we have here Bugoba, and sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, from Paris, and Jose from Mexico City, and Jesus from the Canary Islands. So really all over the place. And Kevin from New Jersey, and the comments keep on coming in. And Scott Taylor here wants to make sure that you are real.
Is he not? I already pointed out that I was definitely skin and bones.
So regarding the work with the Holocaust Museum, what was the driver for that? I agree it's very impactful and it's a great way to preserve history, but the idea came from somewhere, and I was wondering where from.
Well, I'd love to say it was our idea, but it wasn't. We work with with Steven Spielberg's USC Shoah Foundation. They have been doing documentation of Holocaust survivors as well as other historical individuals for years. And they have a Dimensions in Testimony application that they have used very successfully in museums in a two-dimensional point of reference where they use an 85-inch monitor, they use a laptop, and people can actually ask a question, and then through a individual server, those answers are responded back. What we did through them was create an experiential theatrical experience using, sound, lighting, staging, 360-degree visualization, to create a museum experience unlike really anything that you've ever seen before. And so we now, again, pointing out that we have it in two museums, and look forward to, having more developed as they build onto their platform of museums as well. But it's a fascinating way to bring survivor stories to life with these holographic projections, and having the ability to converse using our interactive voice technology.
And that's fascinating as well, and how it makes it really more personable, and that engagement with the audience that you're describing. As a result, then, are you also gathering data from the audience, and in terms of, how are they interacting? What type of questions are they asking? Is all of that being stored, converted into information that could be used for other installations as well?
That is something that the Shoah Foundation does very effectively, and like so many other AI applications, as people ask questions, the servers, the platform learns more, whether it's through, Watson or proprietary applications. You learn, or the hologram learns to respond more effectively. And these are things and data that Shoah is very effective in analyzing and preserving the analytics and metrics of this.
Right.
So besides museums, where are holograms used?
Well, that's the beauty of what we do. There's sort of an unlimited potential of opportunities for where and how our applications can be used. We have been very effective in corporate meetings. And any size. It could be from 50 people to 50,000 people. It really doesn't matter. They're used for corporate meeting openings where you really want to energize an audience. They're used, and there's a perfect example. This particular show was right before COVID, so it was really the last big corporate event that we did. This was at the Bellagio in Las Vegas for Horizon, which is a Dublin-based pharmaceutical company that did a big product reveal for a new gout medicine. We did a fantastic 5-minute opening that incorporated multi-dimensional aspects of our technology. There was well over 140, 150 LED tiles upstage. Wow. We had a live performer who was performing with himself ×3. There were other actors who were participating in this, and alongside original music, sound design, and a very, very enthusiastic crowd that really loved it.
And Joel, is this then? I think you had another photo here. Let me try and bring it up.
Yeah,
just scanning the performer.
Yeah, so in both instances, yes, it was used to create the holographic imagery that you saw on the stage. Once we film it, and we film for holograms in a very unique and defining way. Everything has to be. In our case, we use a black matte background. You could green screen. It's easier for us to sort of work in the black world. We have distance between the upstage drape to give you that volumetric perspective. And we shoot cameras at a very, very precise and particular angle and distance so that the hologram effectively will appear on a stage, not tiptoed or look like they're pushed back. So it's very, very important for us to be as realistic as we possibly can. In fact, at a live event, when we have a hologram, we always have a live stage or a real stage, because the last thing you'd want to do is have this gentleman, look like he's floating in air. So we put him on the ground. We add a reflection to the base, and they're grounded very, very effectively. And lighting is very essential, as well as clothing. We try to, if you wear dark clothing completely, then they sort of become transparent and disappear, and all you have is just a human head. So at the end of the day, this became really a signature piece for us.
What else? What are we seeing here with the Hall of Fame?
The latest, greatest. This was just ended on Sunday. So we produce the Pro Football Hall of Fame Festival in Canton, Ohio, which is always the start of the NFL season. This is a little different application of what we did. This was the first year I was able to actually engage in a conversation that allowed us to actually put up a holographic stage set for use for the gold jacket ceremony, as well as a very high profile fashion show and a round table for all the Hall of Famers. This particular application uses a 3D HoloNet, which is a sort of a sprayed particulate matter screen that allows you to have the same perspective of volumetric design, even though it's direct projected from the front. We used a 30,000 lumen Barco, a VDX 30,000 lumen 4K DLP laser projector. And
so that's something very bright, I would assume.
Extremely bright. And then what you see behind it is about 10 feet, or I think it actually was about 10 or 12 feet behind it, was a drape that we uplight so that your eyes will continue to hunt for depth of field, that Z depth. Without that, everything would become flat and it would look like a standard video projection. So we created about 25 different animations for each particular part, including the introduction of all the players, the logo, as you see there, and some other creative elements.
And from what I've heard from, certain friends that have experienced these type of holograms in real life, they're saying that it's really undescribable, that the photos don't do them justice, that while you're there, it's just surreal. It's you just want to touch.
Not surreal, it's real.
It's real, exactly.
Unreal, real, yeah. It's really funny. That's very, very true. And this is why we always invite people to come to the theater so they can see it. Everybody has a perception of what it would, or should look like. But until you see it, you realize the realism, the skin tones, the texturing, the lighting, the movement, the eye connection that you have between a hologram and yourself. And you realize that, wow, this could be very, very real. We had a case in point at one of the Holocaust museums that an individual asked a question. And sometimes if the hologram hasn't learned that question yet, there's a sort of a go-to response, and it'll be something like, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question. Would you please ask it again?" Or it'll say something, "Sorry, I don't understand." Mm-hmm. So this person, instead of being very clear with a question, really kind of made it into a statement. So the AI interface couldn't really perceive it. And of course the response was, "I'm sorry, I don't understand your question." This person in the audience was so enthralled by the fact that they were talking to this hologram, they really perceived this person to be real. So she says, I'm so sorry you didn't understand the question. How should I?" She's talking to this person. Mm-hmm. That's how the brain begins to assume this real identity with mm-hmm. these projections. So we know it works, Yes, they were very apologetic for not asking a question.
We actually have a kind of related question from Scott, who asks, do you ever not tell the audience that it's a hologram to see if they don't realize that?
No, I don't think so to that degree. However, saying that, like with the Horizon piece that we did, when we had that individual dancing, he started the performance as a hologram. And then 2 more of him came out and they were dancing. And then a 4th one came out and it was him. So now the audience really didn't know who was real. It's like the old magic trick with the ball under the cup, you're kind of going round and around. And then eventually they peeled off. And all of a sudden, what you thought was the real one the whole time turned out to be a hologram, and he jumps up into the air and he's just suspended in air. And so people are like, holy mackerel. So, I think we leave it up to the individual to sort of assume that they're seeing a holographic projection. And I also think that people are astute enough to know that, it's not real, especially if you walk through them, on the stage.
Right.
What does the 4D stand for in EventWorks 4D?
Yeah, that's the interesting concept. I mean, we kind of made that up. It's really, it reflects the fact that we can do so many different adjunct technologies combined with holograms to make it more engaging for the audience. So again, all of a sudden, what was just a hologram becomes a synchronized or blended video on a screen upstage. So there's, a second dimension. Then we add, live performers to the hologram, which is sort of the 3D. And then the 4D is usually some sort of additional imagery or props or something like that we can add to it. So we make it much more, I think, entertaining than just seeing, like a hologram pop on the stage or pop out. We make it into basically an entertainment show.
Yeah. Very, very entertainment show.
Yeah.
Why I asked is because I used to volunteer at the Vancouver Aquarium, and we had a 4D theater. But the 4th D was because we were they were splashing water at us.
Right.
So that
different
was
smells.
different smells.
The tactile, interaction.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we sort of do that, by incorporating, additional lighting in the house, haze, different effects, things like that. And who knows, where we go with it. Smell, taste. I mean, it's all evolving.
Yes.
Jesus here was wondering, what is the most difficult part in performing this show? Is it the setup itself? Is there something during the show that you always need to watch out for? Is it more the preparation, I guess, the scanning of the performance?
All of the above. I can tell you one thing. The rigging for this is very, very detailed, sometimes very difficult. We deal with a optic polymer foil that is 100 microns, so it's about 1/125th of an inch thick. It's like working with saran wrap to wrap your food and put it in your refrigerator. And we cut it to size. We have it on massive rollers, and we actually have it milled for us exclusively from Mitsubishi out of Germany, and then it's sent to us. It's a unique milling process for this, and we get it in bulk in a huge rolls, and then we roll them out, 10 meters at a time, whatever, onto a pipe, and then those go to the venues, and then we have to cut it to the size. So you have to be really, really precise, because you could slice it incorrectly. If you compromise a corner, you can literally do a cross blade, and we're talking, $25,000-$30,000 a pop for, an 8 by 4 meter show. for a big piece of plastic. So we have to be extremely careful. And then when we do rig it, we have gripper bars, and then every about, I would say, 20 inches or so, we put around 30 to 50 pounds of torque on the top, across the top, and across the bottom. It sort of reminds me of a piano tuner. They'll hit a middle C, and they get it, and then they go to the D and E, and it's not quite right, or guitar tuning. That's the same thing we have to do. So we'll tweak a top, couple spots to get a wrinkle out, and then another one will pop up on the bottom, and we go to the bottom, and we find the right, ratchet strap to pull it until we get a 100% transparent screen that is completely invisible to the naked eye. So once we get past that and we rig it, then we take a sigh of relief. Then we have to worry that, that the show works, that the server fires, that all the cues work and stuff like that. So
do you need to have signs backstage that, hey, don't cross through here, it's a transparent film, you might not see it?
Oh, we've had accidents like that. I think there was a case. It's so strong, because you torque so much. I think years ago, it wasn't with us. I had been told with a group in London. I think a rigger or a stagehand didn't know and fell off the stage and bounced into the thing and bounced back, like a trampoline. Needless to say, though, the foil was no good because you've lost the tension on it. But yeah, it's very worrisome. We look like a crime scene when we're rigging. Everything is all about, do not enter, caution tape, Yeah, it gets a little scary. And I've even fallen, it's like, oh my God, I almost stepped on this thing. And I know better.
I just wanted to share another fun fact with our audience, and that's about presumably the father of holography, or at least the modern version of holography. So past the Victorian times, so the projections of the ghosts and all that stuff. He's, apparently he worked on the improvement. Dennis Gabor, who's, I forgot where he was from. I want to say Ukraine, but I'm not sure. I have to look this one up. But he worked on the improvement of the electronic microscope. Mm-hmm. And in his, quest for seeking a better visualization, this kind of really led to the invention of holography. And from what I was reading, the basic idea was that for the perfect optical imaging, the total of all the information had to be used, hence the holos part of the hologram, not only the amplitude. And now it's really above my head or what I'm saying. Yes. But and anyways, in this matter, he was really able to complete this holospatial picture that can be obtained. Which was really, really interesting. And apparently he came up with this whole idea on how to do this and while he was waiting to play for a tennis match on Easter Sunday in 1947. Yeah. So, and he did receive the Nobel Prize for his invention in 71. But I wonder, Joel, when you started to work with this, or when you thought, okay, well, this is really, we need to step into the hologram world a little bit more. Do you remember, where you were? When did this idea come to you?
It's fascinating that you bring this individual up, because I think for years people have imagined the use of holograms, and it really wasn't until recently where you see through CGI in the motion pictures where you're starting to perceive that this is real. So what he did, we're now seeing, I think the first time we really saw it was in, maybe Star Wars, with
Yes.
Princess Leia on the chessboard or
wanted
whatever.
to mention, yeah.
There was also a Tom Hanks film that, most people said they never saw, which was King for a Hologram. And I don't know if any of your viewers had ever seen that movie. It's not, I guess it's not one of Tom Hanks's most, impressive films, but in short, he was a salesperson for a holographic company in the United States that was selling holographic telepresence to the King of Saudi Arabia. The moral of the story was, in their definition of holograms, when they were demoing it, they had what looked like a regular projector that was mounted on a ceiling, and you see this beam of light, and then all of a sudden there was this holographic soccer player kicking a ball back and forth. And so after that movie came out, I got tons of phone calls. Oh, we want to put a hologram in the middle of a room, and we want to do it in the round. And it was like, that was a movie. The technology doesn't exist. So to case in point, in 1947, what you're seeing in the advent of true holographic signature is the fact that even today in 2021, you've got a few companies like Sony, Samsung, who have looked at holographic, let's say true holograms, but have only been able to do it in its most simplistic state, almost like the way laser projection was, where you would have stick figures. It didn't give you that full scope of visualization. So I think, it's something that, certainly I think the minds will be able to do this. Mm-hmm. The ability to project in the same resolution in 4K, 8K that we do in the projection world, I think is a long time off. And truly, we are limited in scope because, for the most part with PG, we do it in a proscenium style. So it's a straight shot. I've had clients and customers say, could I like walk behind and see the back? The answer, of course, is no. That being said, through a partner in Copenhagen, who have developed what they call the deep frame. This is real fiction. They have the ability for a person to look through a window, into an optic window, and into real space. Mm-hmm. So if I'm looking through a glass and I'm looking at a big lobby of a science museum, I can see the people walking behind me, but I can also then project the solar system or planets or comets behind it. Mm-hmm. So there's where you get the realism that you can create, but it's only in around a 5 foot by 5 foot footprint right now. But I would imagine innovation is just evolving by the minute, and we're working on some new innovative ideas as well that will shrink the footprint and allow holographic imagery to be in a hospital room or in a lobby of a hotel or any common space that will have a full projection without the need of having a projector like you see with these virtual assistants right now. So, right. So we're taking it, to the next level, but there's many, many levels to come yet.
It's wonderful. Actually, you anticipated one of my questions, like what are the next steps? But before I have another question regarding the future of this. But before that, I was curious, how did the pandemic affect what you do?
Well, I think like all businesses, it virtually shut us down. I shouldn't say virtually, completely shut us down. We rely on audiences. We rely on the ability to transform an experience to real people. When the world shut down, live shows, as we all know, entertainment shut down, museums were closed and shuttered. The one thing that we did do is we created a holographic display or a kiosk, COVID related. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. And it uses a holographic DreamOck, which is a 3-sided hologram. And then we built a automated disinfectant dispenser, mask dispenser, and infrared temperature. And the idea was to place these in different locations where an individual, while they're standing in line, could also get an informative holographic presentation about, COVID safety, protocols, and so on. We finished it, and then, the vaccine came out, and, all of a sudden there wasn't the demand. But now with, the new variant, maybe people will once again want to deploy these. But it's quite nice. In fact, we actually have the video link on our website. It's called Prevention in Public, which is across the header on our homepage.
By any chance, can you open the website? Because there are some very interesting. No, not right now. So everyone check the website. It's
ew4d.com.
Eventworks4d.com. Yes.
No, it's actually ew4d.com is the actual website.
All right. Even easier.
Yeah.
Yes, I wanted to say that there's some very, very interesting images on the website, so definitely check it out. And my last question is, what are the future uses of holograms? So I was thinking about maybe something around education or medicine, or even virtual phone calls, just to create the feeling that people are in the room with you and so on.
We've done both education and medicine. We currently have a theater at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, their IXL Center, and it is incredibly sophisticated. It makes my theater look very amateurish. That's how much technology we put into that building. They are using that for surgical interventions, surgical innovations, surgical training, for physicians, where they can work with a 3D model and sitting and watching. So, if you're in cardiology, they can.
Amazing.
You have a massively big heart, and we could extrapolate the different layers of the atria and the ventricles and so on. So, medicine is big. Again, I think holographic telepresence, where we can actually beam a physician or healthcare provider into a patient setting, is something that we're very close to doing right now. In the education world, we've been working with Cisco, and because they have a whole education group, and they are looking, obviously, to do the same sort of holographic telepresence using their codecs in the classroom, which is really, really interesting, not only just for education, but for anybody who has a holographic theater, to be able to beam a person from anywhere into the world as a public speaker, as a guest of something, and have them on the stage where you can actually interact together.
In real time.
In real time. When I say real time, I'm talking about 22 milliseconds, which is real time. When you think about satellite uplink, downlink delays, when you're watching news, and they're stepping on each other because the delays. This doesn't have that. This is like boom, boom. We did just one case in point. We did a telepresence demo in our theater, and we had an illusionist from another city in New York, and we had an audience, and he was doing magic tricks with people in our audience. And we had a handler, doing the cards, and he says, "Oh, Bob, what is that? Oh, ace of spades. Boom, boom." And I'm sitting there, I'm like mesmerized,
Well, it's like two magic tricks in one.
Yeah.
And in the entertainment sector, Scott is wondering if you're going to do anything with theme parks, Disney. It really seems like a natural fit.
Well, I can tell you, Scott, that Disney became very aware of Pepper's Ghost years ago. They were really one of the first to capture the transparent ghost-like at the original Disneyland in Anaheim with, I think it was Pirates of the Caribbean at the time, using plates of glass and reflective of light. And again, as I mentioned earlier, they were interested in actually purchasing the original patents, which have actually, some of the original patents have actually now gone, public domain. So there's not that tight hold that there was back in the early 2000s. So yes, I mean, Disney does use it in a different way, in a different way. They're still very big on animatronics, but they have casually utilized the technology as well in all their theme parks.
Thank you, Joel. Well, again, I do encourage everybody to check out EventWorks 4D and EW4D.com. And please follow Joel Solloway on LinkedIn and get in touch with him if you'd like to learn more information about holograms and especially what services Joel can help you with.
Absolutely. We'd appreciate that very much.
Thank you so much, Joel. This is very, very interesting.
Oh, my pleasure. I enjoyed it very much.
I found out so much today. So thank you very much for sharing. Thank you for doing this amazing work, for enhancing our reality. And thank you everyone for joining and for your amazing questions and for being here from all over the world.
Thank you, everybody. Happy
Thanks.
Friday.
Happy Friday. Have a
Bye,
beautiful
everybody.
weekend. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.